Welcome back, Idiot Squared viewers. This week, we're having a continuation from the nutrition podcast from last week, where we discussed calories, macros, levels of abstraction, how to make sense and understand how much energy and what nutrition you should be consuming to achieve your health and fitness goals. This week, we're going to continue on from that, and we're going to introduce a little something that Polska and I have been working on, called Good Meals, which is a tool that you can use to know how many calories or how much energy you should be consuming. Also can help to tell you the macros that you should be consuming to achieve your goal, whether that's fat loss, muscle gain, or just maintain what you currently have. So we're going to do an intro into that. We'll dive deeper into macros, how to understand them a bit better, how to select different foods, and possibly even delve into micros. So, Polska, how are you this week?
I'm good, Guy. I'm excited to finally talk about this product that we've been working on. Well, that you've been working really hard on, that I've been kind of working on. I think it's going to be a game changer. It works really well. It's AI. It has AI integration. I'm really excited to talk about it and show everybody what it is, how it works. This is just a sign-up vid that we did just to help people out, get familiarized with how that works, or I'll just play it. Here we go.
Introducing Good Meals, your personalized path to nutritional success. Visit goodmeals.health to sign up today. Sign up using socials or simply enter your first and last name, followed by your email address, set a password, accept the terms of use, and click sign up. Enter your age, your height, and your weight. Enter your sex, your activity level, your goal, and how fast you'd like to achieve it. Notice your calories will be calculated for you. Then simply enter the amount of protein in grams per kilogram of body weight you'd like to eat, as well as fat, and your carbs will be auto-calculated for you. Enter the amount of meals you'd like to eat, and Good Meals will divide your calories across those meals for you. Good Meals will then give you your macro split for each of your meals, as well as the ratios for your macros. Click the Generate Meal Plan to choose your subscription. You can choose from the monthly subscription or the discounted yearly subscription option. From there, enter your payment details and that coupon code. Don't forget to apply the coupon code. Click to pay, and you get access to your very own custom meal plan builder, where you have access to over 5,000 macro calculated recipes, as well as over 5,000 items and ingredients that you can use to build your own recipes or add to your meal plan. But that's not all Good Meals has. Good Meals also has its very own AI recipe generator, where you can describe whatever you feel like eating, enter the macros you want the meal to match, and the AI will whip you up a recipe that hits your macros. The options are truly endless now. Never has hitting your macros, tracking those calories, ever been so easy and so delicious. Welcome to Good Meals, your path to personalized nutritional success.
All right, Guy.
Nice guy.
I just realized I got a...
Good editing. I don't know about that guy's voice who's doing the voiceover, though. That sounds like a bit of a douchebag.
Negative, Guy. Sounds good to go. Yo, I just realized, I might have to bring the music down a little bit. The music might be a little bit strong.
I didn't notice the music being loud. All I noticed was I made two mistakes. I've written only 1,500 recipes when actually there's over 7,000 recipes. And then with the AI feature, we've got unlimited recipe generation abilities. So you can generate unlimited amounts of recipes that match your macros. So I got to fix that. Thanks. It was good.
Yo, that AI integration though is crazy. When you got me to try it out, I was actually blown away of how well it works. So what's really interesting about it is that if you have food in your fridge and you don't really know what to make, you just type in the foods that you have and the quantities that you have, and the AI will just create a specialized recipe for you, and it has the detailed steps as well. So not only does it construct it in a way where it's coinciding with your macros for that meal, but also it gives you a detailed step-by-step of how to actually curate that meal. And that, I don't know, that part for me is like a game changer. I think it's really cool, and it works well. So I'm really excited to, yeah, it's live, by the way. So you guys can go ahead and sign up right now. That shit is live right fucking now. So go ahead and sign up.
Yeah, and it will definitely only get better and better. Like, we're pushing more and more updates continuously. So you just mentioned that you can like type in what's in your fridge and get like a macro balanced meal. So like you can enter your macros, and the recipe will actually match your macros. Like the quantities will be exactly what they should be to hit those macros, which is like a game changer. Because if you use AI a lot, you know that AI doesn't really know shit, and it likes to make stuff up. So if you just ask a AI for a recipe, you don't get accurate macros. It just lies to you. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we got to do in the back end there to make sure that it actually is accurate, but we've got it to work, and it works really well. But in the future, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe even maybe a couple of months, you should just be able to actually take a photo of whatever's in your fridge, and then say like you want a recipe that hits these macros, and it will make one for you based off the picture. That should be a new feature integration we are currently working on. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff. But so basically, what does Good Meals allow you to do? Well, Good Meals allows you to find out how many calories you should essentially be consuming based on your goal and who you are. So it's unique to you. All the calculations are done based off your details. And then from there, you can enter rough approximations to how many grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is a more accurate way than just doing a percentage. And sort of figuring out, okay, so if you're someone that weight trains or you're very active, you're going to want to eat a little bit more protein. You're not as active, you're a bit more sedentary, you might not need as much protein. We have a guide on how to select all of those things, so you can read that so you can make an informed decision. If you have a coach or someone that does that for you, they can let you know what ratios they think you should be eating, or what percentages. You can enter that in, and it will calculate your macros for you. So it'll tell you how much protein, how much fat, how many carbs you should be eating each day. It'll divide that over the meal so that every meal, you know, is hitting those macros, right? And then you can search recipes that match your macros. You can also search recipes that don't match your macros. So you can combine two recipes into one meal. So say you want, you got to hit your protein, but you feel like some cake, right? You can do that in this platform, right? Like in the web app, you can actually select stuff that you want to eat, and you can still make sure you hit your macros. So it's a very useful tool in that regard. But yeah, it's exciting. It's been fun to work on this and to learn more about macros and how, like, why we haven't been doing this for longer. Like, it's a coarse graining. It's a certain level of abstraction, but it works so well for most people. Right? Like just eating with a bit more of an understanding of like why we eat, what calories are and what macros are, and why we need to consume those different macros makes such a difference. Like you can solve most, like a good percentage of health related problems just by understanding calorie balance and macros, right? Like a lot of people who tend to overeat might not be eating enough protein. Protein has that nice satiating effect, right? Like the more protein you eat, the fuller you feel. And there's even people that say that like protein per calorie isn't as like, yes, it has 4 calories per gram, but does it really? Because it takes a certain amount of energy to digest that protein. It has a thermic effect, which sort of makes your body burn a few extra calories. So is it really equivalent to just 4? Some people say it isn't, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I'm going on a side tangent for some reason. But yeah, that's Good Meals. You can go to it. You can calculate your macros. You can find out the amount of calories you should be eating to achieve your goal, and get your macros from that for free. You don't have to sign up. So you can get all of that information for free without signing up. It's only the meal plan and the AI recipe generator that requires sign up to get access to it.
I think the biggest what's it called, weakness of like those run-of-the-mill meal plans is that there's not enough variations in them, right? A lot of times people will say, yeah, like it works for a time, but I just get bored of eating the same thing, or I need more variation, or, I don't know what to do if I don't have that food available. So this sort of Good Meal sort of solves all those problems, because you can have something different to eat literally every single day. And, with the AI integration, it's possible that you'll
Still
never
hit your
eat.
macros.
Yeah. And it's possible that you'll never eat the same recipe. Like, you know what I mean? Once in a whole year, if you wanted to, or even longer. So that's like the huge benefit, because a lot of the times, you talk to people who've done meal plans or have written meal plans. They're very they're structured in a way where it just doesn't allow for variation. Whereas here with this tool, you can, I mean, sky's the limit. I think that's what's so beautiful about it. Right. And that's another thing I think that's a game changer about it. And I think that it will heighten.
Yeah, no, I agree.
What's the word? Adherence. Yeah. I think it'll really have a big impact on diet adherence, simply because of the variation factor and the AI integration. Yeah. Which is huge. Even if you're like a personal trainer and you don't have time to be making meal plans, you can just have your clients use Good Meals, or you can use Good Meals yourself, and you could just provide the meal plans for your clients.
And send it to them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really fast, effective way of structuring meal plans.
Yeah. So a little bit of backstory. Like, the reason I started building this is, like, I've worked in the health and fitness space for quite some time. I've written literally like close to 1,000 meal plans over that time for different people. And it's a tedious process, right? Like, it's a long process, and it's not like you don't make money from it, like, in hindsight, right? Like, it actually takes way longer to make a meal plan for somebody, like a really good one, like, with all the back and forth, finding out what their flavor preferences are, what they like to eat, then understanding, like, then thinking, what do they need to eat to achieve their goals? Like, what's their blood work saying? Like, what's their health status currently? Like, oh, we need to include more polyphenols, or we need to include more omega-3s, or we need to, include certain types of food to manage this, or it has to be gluten-free because they're showing intolerances to these kinds of things, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's a huge amount of work to go into that. And then to think that you can understand what somebody wants to eat 7 days a week, week after week, it's an impossible task. You can't actually do it. And so there's huge amounts of back and forth. It's a really hard process. You can build like the perfect meal plan. But if it's really hard for the client to stick to, or the flavors are off, or, the combinations of food are off, or they don't know how to cook, or any number of different things, it renders it useless, right? So, like, I actually built this tool because I struggled, like, I was having such a tough time doing all these things, and I really enjoyed, like, helping people to do these kinds of things, but it's a very hard process. So by building this tool, it made the ability for the generation of meal plans, and then the ability for clients to stick to those meal plans so much easier, because it takes out a lot of the guesswork. And by getting them to use this product or this tool, they're in charge. So whatever they feel like eating, they can eat, and they can still hit their macros, right? Like, that's such a powerful thing, like you just mentioned. Like, it's so powerful because it's like, no longer can you complain that, like, oh, I just can't eat this every day. You don't have to eat that every day. You can come up with a new recipe that meets the needs of what you feel like or what you're feeling on that day, and then you can eat that and still hit those macros. So it's like having a personal, like, nutritionist, coach, trainer in your pocket continuously, because you can just, like, refer to it, and that it's going to give you a meal that matches those macros. But yeah, like, that's literally the reason I built it, is because I needed and wanted something like this, because it's just so much hard. Like, it's so hard. It's so difficult to do these things well. And it takes so much time. Whereas with this, it just, cuts all of that out.
Yeah, exactly. So, Rubes, last week, you mentioned something, and I was kind of thinking about this throughout the week. You said that it's not so much just understanding of what your macros are, but also understanding what food is nourishing you as well, right? And I feel like that's a big missing link in a lot of meal plans is that we can get it down to the macros, understanding how many grams of proteins, fat, and carbohydrates we're supposed to consume. But if those proteins, carbohydrates, and fats aren't necessarily nourishing our body, we may feel hungry at times, and we may feel tired, and we may feel as if we're not recovering sufficiently, right? And you said that when you began to understand which foods are nourishing you, that is when you began to feel at your optimal, like, best. That's when you were like your best version of yourself, is when you began to understand, okay, if I get my omega-3s from smoked cod liver, that is such a good source of that omega-3. My body digests it well and utilizes it well. Then I'm going to concentrate on eating or getting like a good source or a good amount of my omega-3s from the cod liver, the smoked cod liver, right? And I think that's really important. And I think that's like the future of all of this, is having the tools for people to then begin to understand which micronutrients do I need to obtain, do I need to consume in order to feel my optimal best health. Because like, I understand what my macros are. Okay, great. But now I need to dive a little bit deeper and really understand what my micros are. And I want to achieve, I want to get a better understanding of that. So I think like that there is where the future lies. And it's been a missing link forever. Like even if you look at a food pyramid and what the government's propose and this and that, nobody really talks about how to achieve those RDIs. They say what they are, but to actually have a tool where it can guide you into understanding that is not existent. And that's another reason why I think Good Meals is such a like a game changer, because down the road that is going to be like the base of the platform of how it works. We don't only want people to utilize it as a meal plan, obviously that, but also learn. Also, it's a tool where you can learn and you can become more knowledgeable about nutrition yourself. So much so that down the line you can help others as well, because it's not actually as complicated. It just requires a little bit of time and a little bit of interest. And did you say income?
No. So it requires a tool that encourages you to learn and facilitates learning. So, and that's what it does. So I'm currently building in the ability to, like, we have all the data for the micros, right? Like, so we have all the data for sodium, potassium, magnesium, vitamin C, selenium, like all of the different micros. Like we have all that data for all the food ingredients and food items. But it gets pretty cumbersome finding ways to display that kind of information and learning how to search by it as well. So in the future, that's definitely features that Good Meal will have. Like, we want to encourage those micros. But I think obviously the first thing to do is start understanding like calorie balance, right? Like, if you're in a calorie surplus, if you're consuming more calories than your body requires to maintain and sustain itself and do the physical activity of the day, you will be gaining, right? You will be gaining weight, whether it's fat, muscle mass, whatever. You'll be gaining. Like, it's more likely you'll be gaining. You're building, essentially, you're building your body. If you're in a calorie deficit, you will be slowly losing mass, right? And if you're in maintenance calories, which is if you're eating exactly the same amount as your body needs to maintain itself and do the physical activity, you'll just maintain, right? So that first level is the first step, right? Then the second step is macros, understanding like how much protein, fat, and carbs. Then once you master macros, if you're still not getting the outcomes that you want, like you still don't have the energy you want, you're still getting cravings, you're still doing this and whatever, then you start to look into the micros. And this is where in the future with Good Meals, what we're planning to do is to integrate this in with like health data tracking. So you can have your heart rate monitor and the data can be synced to Good Meals. So it can check your sleep, it can understand your heart rate variability, it can understand your resting heart rate, it can understand like, your physical activity for the day, like what times was your heart rate up, etc. What time did you wake up? What time did you go to sleep? It can then also, ideally, we want to link this to the ability, we want to integrate the ability to look at blood work or to have markers from you in there so we can see if you're deficient in certain nutrients or micronutrients, right? And then that way you can have meals tailored to you that are pushing more of those micronutrients in. So this is what, like when you said it helps people to learn, it's like an interactive way to learn, right? It's all the onus isn't just on you to just like go, oh, I'm low in this. How do I get this? Or like, what does that even mean to be low in this? What could that be related to? Ideally, the platform knows those things, and it helps you to understand the connections between these different things. And then you can try for yourself. You can see if I eat more of this food, does that underlying issue or problem subside? Does it go away? Does it minimize? Or does it get worse, right? And then you can start to learn yourself better as well. And ideally, the platform learns you better and it can start to make better recommendations based on that. But yeah, look, I think where everyone, well, not everyone, where most people will get to is understanding micros just because of the power in it. But for a lot of people, they don't even need to. Like literally just understanding calorie balance and macros is enough for most people. Like it solves most problems. It's only if you have like an underlying deficiency or intolerances or some other issue that you're probably going to need to delve deeper into the micros, or if you're really looking to optimize performance, right? Like if you're really looking to optimize like brain function and different things like that, then of course you're going to want to understand micros and like what is omega-3 and why is DHA important for brain health, and like all of these different things. But instead of sort of like getting thrown into a random forest that you have to navigate by yourself, this is like having a seasoned explorer that has all the maps of the territory with you, and they help you to navigate to where you need to get to, which just saves so much time and so much energy, because nutrition is an incredibly vast space and there is lots of confusing information and none of it is as clear as it could be.
Most of pretty much all chronic diseases and most diseases are stemmed from malnutrition, meaning you are not consuming sufficient enough of something. Something is lacking in your diet. There's also a genetic factor as well. But many chronic illnesses, many I think I should have said lifestyle type of diseases are linked to poor nutrition and sedentary type lifestyles. So if you suffer from blood pressure, right, or if you have heart attack or there are heart attacks, you're predisposed to heart attacks because it runs in your family, right, or any type of these lifestyle type diseases, because usually heart attacks is a sign of sedentary lifestyle, malnutrition, someone not taking care of themselves. Heart attacks can stem from many different types of scenarios. One of them being like poor cholesterol balance, and the poor cholesterol balance in your body ends up building up in your arteries, and that's one of the ways that you might have a heart attack. So that can be prevented, right, if we understand of how to nourish ourselves. And blood pressure, for example, I think it's like 80 or 85% of blood pressure is caused by unknown factors. So if you go to the doctor and you have high blood pressure, it's 85% of the time they don't know why you have the high blood pressure. So they'll prescribe you a blood pressure medication, right, to try and bring down your blood pressure. And sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't work, but that's not really the missing link. Your body isn't needing a chemical to lower blood pressure. That's not the solution, right? It could be a Band-Aid. It could help you maybe live a little bit longer. Some blood pressure medication works really well for a lot of people, but it's deeper than that, right? We have to understand, why do I have this blood pressure? Where did this come from? Maybe it's my lifestyle. We have to look inwards, right? And if we look at things at a micronutrient level, there are certain micronutrients deficiencies that are associated with blood pressure, right? And we can find those things out through doing tests, or even I think it's called a DNA methylation test, I believe, where when you do a DNA methylation test, you can see which nutrients are being converted into the nutrients needed in your body. So, for example, if you eat something high in selenium and your body is lacking something and it's not converting the selenium in order for it to be used, because we can't just absorb selenium and use it. It needs to be converted into something in order for our body to utilize it, right? So it could be that we're not converting a certain nutrient that is associated with high blood pressure. And if we gain an understanding of that factor, like if we can do a DNA methylation test and see, oh, look, I'm deficient in this nutrient, and we then start to consume a diet which is higher in that nutrient, we could have a significant impact on our blood pressure. I believe this is what Dana White did. I believe this is how they found out that this is one of the things that Dana White had an issue with, right? He had a slew of metabolic illnesses due to poor lifestyle choices. And I believe they did a methylation DNA test with him, and they found a nutrient which he was lacking that was associated with high blood pressure. And as soon as he started supplementing with that nutrient, which his body was unable to convert into, his blood pressure came down, and he was no longer needed to consume blood pressure medication. So my point is that a lot of these lifestyle type illnesses can be associated with malnutrition. What I'm trying to say is there is a micronutrient likely that is lacking within us, or that we're not consuming, that could change everything if we just understood what it is, what it could be. So I just think that people need to concentrate on that, because it's nutrition first, right? Like your doctor will tell you, the whole medical industry, there's a lot of good doctors, by the way, but the whole medical industry is not about prevention. Okay. That's not what it's about. It's about getting you on a drug, providing Band-Aid type solutions and keeping you on drugs, and then combating your side effects that you have from those drugs with other drugs. That's how the mafia works. That's how the medical mafia works, right? Whereas we want to look at prevention. Like, I don't want to get to the point where I have high blood pressure. I don't want to get to the point where I might have a heart attack. I need a tool, and I need to do something now in order to prevent those things. And if I do have high blood pressure, well, it doesn't mean there's no hope for me, because like Dana White, he got better, and you can too, as long as you sort of learn about nutrition and start getting like a better understanding of it. All right, that's my rant, bro.
No, a good rant. Look, yes, definitely. But even like more broadly, like that's a very sort of specific example, and it's probably a bit niche for most people. Like most of the high blood pressure stuff is probably just related to like not being physically active enough, like not keeping your arteries elastic, right? Over consuming calories and under consuming nutrition, like just broadly, like those three things, right? And I have a saying that I like to use, like people that are in pain don't want to move, right? If movement is painful, why would you want to move, right? What you ideally, if movement is fun and enjoyable, you'll do it more. Yeah. So like we have an epidemic of obesity, which makes it painful to move. It makes it hard to move. And a big part of this is coming from, like over consuming calories and under consuming nutrition. We're over consuming foods that are rich in calories, but poor in nutrition. So just getting that energy balance under control, right? Replacing some of those high caloric foods with lower caloric foods that have a higher nutrient density can make huge progress to solving that epidemic, right? And then from there, if people are still having different issues, like you mentioned specifically about the blood pressure and whatever, if that still persists, then that's when you start to look for the micros and you can go down those paths. But for like, what I would guess is like, the bulk of the distribution, that's probably not even necessary, right? Like they don't even need to learn that much about it. They could just honestly just have a tool or learn a little bit about energy balance, or have a tool that helps them to manage that energy balance, gets rid of most of the stuff. But like, you're exactly right about the more you sort of start to learn and understand about this, the more empowering it is. And the more you realize, like, it's crazy that the first thing that doctors don't talk about nutrition with their clients. That should be the first point of call. Like, when you go to a doctor's visit, you should like explain to them what you're experiencing. And the next question should be about lifestyle, right? Like, well, how physically active are you? What's your morning routine? Like, and not that you need a morning routine. I mean, a routine in like, what do you do when you wake up? Like, what's your typical behaviors? Like, if you wake up and the first thing you do is smoke a couple of cigarettes and have a coffee, right? Like, yeah, that's possibly not the greatest way to start your day. Like you should talk about that. Like, I don't eat until, I fast all morning. I just drink coffee. I smoke cigarettes. And then I eat, like chips for dinner. Like, of course there's going to be problems with your body, man. Like, you're missing out on so many nutrients that you need to maintain the processes in your body, right? Like a very common one is magnesium, right? Like if you're not ingesting enough magnesium, especially if you live a stressful lifestyle or something, magnesium is involved in like, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of processes related to metabolism in your body. So like if you are deficient in that thing, a huge amount of those processes can't complete. They can't do what they would what they're essentially meant to be doing to maintain your body in a state of health or a lack of dis-ease, right? Which is a good segue into dis-ease, right? Like disease. That like there is an epidemic of disease. And I think it's a very interesting word because if you sort of break it down, it's dis-ease, right? It's when your body is in a state of dis-ease.
Never thought about that.
And you mentioned before about these nutrient deficiencies and lots of these problems coming from a deficiency of some kind. What it means when you have a deficiency. Yeah, no, it's crazy. I've got a nice little breakdown of it. I'll do it after. But if you aren't ingesting the necessary things to complete the processes in your body, it creates vulnerabilities within your body for bacteria, for viruses, for different things to attack your body. It's like it's like having a weakness in your armor, right? If there's a chink in the armor, the things that are constantly trying to attack us are going to find that chink and they're going to get a way in. And this, to me, is the underlying cause for most problems that we experience or most dis-ease that we as humans experience. But again, this isn't just about nutrition. This is about a lifestyle, right? Like it's about being physically active, and you don't have to go out and run marathons or anything else. But if you're not getting the outcomes you want and you're not being physically active, a little bit of physical activity is going to be very beneficial. It's about sleep. It's about sun exposure. It's about hydration. It's about nutrition. It's about fasting. So just as much as it's about like putting the things into your body that you need, it's also about periods of time where you're not putting any of those things in so that your body has to learn how to be a bit more efficient. It can go through and correct those errors. It can go through and like optimize some processes. It's a confluence of factors. And the end goal for Good Meals is to provide a set of tools that allow individuals to take control of those things for themselves and to better understand it and become more educated so that they can take control of their health, right? They can minimize their dis-ease with the tools that we provide.
Dis-ease. I don't know why I had never thought about that before. When you are in a state of dis-ease. That's hilarious.
Crazy, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about that, but yeah.
Eased.
Yeah, because the suffix dis is like not, right? Not at ease.
I have a document. We can link it in the show notes. It's like,
okay.
Yeah, big delay. I have a document that we can link in the show notes about the pillars for health. Like, what are the foundations, right? And it's essentially like, breathing, number one. If you don't breathe for a couple of minutes, you die. So breathing's like number one important thing, right? Then it's hydration. Then it's nutrition. Then it's challenging your body, like moving your body. Then it's loading those movements to make that progression. It's fasting. It's light and darkness, a balance between those two. So making sure you get adequate levels of light exposure, plus you're getting a certain amount of time in darkness or lack of light exposure. And then understanding the bacterial load that's on your body, right? That exists on you. Not all bacteria are bad. Some of them are complementary to us, and it's understanding that balance and how you can feed a positive balance as opposed to a negative balance. But it's like a 10,000 word doc. So it's a lot to go over here. But yeah, we include it in the show notes so people can read over it. But I give a good definition and I explain like that dis-ease a lot more.
Okay, nice guy, nice. What are the other 4 pillars, by the way? Breathing. Oh, by the way, when are the woke people going to realize that they're exhaling carbon dioxide? And if they want to save the planet, they might have to stop breathing. Sorry, I said it was a stupid joke. Stupid joke.
Yeah, how bad is that, dude? But that was an actual article.
Yeah. So what are the other ones though? There's breathing, and then what are the other 3 pillars of health? I'm assuming. Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have assumed that breathing would have been one of the 4 pillars of health. I would have thought physical activity, nutrition, something with mental health in some sort of way. Well, it would be a 4th one. Okay. Relationships, maybe like family. I was thinking about this when we brought up the like the doctor's role in health, right? And how they're not sort of coming from the preventative approach. I thought about this one thing that Gary Becca said recently, and I thought it was a really good point. So if you are growing plants, right? If you're growing like a tomato plant, and there's something wrong with the plant, like it's just like it's not doing too well, and you call, like, let's just say that for some reason you call a botanist, and the botanist comes over, they look at the plant, and the very first thing they do is they take a soil sample to see what nutrients are or are lacking from the soil sample. That's like the very first thing they do, right? And that's how you can improve the health of your tomato plant. As soon as you know what nutrients are lacking from the soil, you can then, put them in there, or maybe transplant to different soil because maybe this one is too acidic for some reason. And as soon as you do that, the plant will then start growing again vibrantly, right? So it's so funny to me that we do that for plants.
Yeah.
But for
100%.
people, no, fuck no. Fuck that, dude. At least the vegans will be happy about that.
It's the person's the problem, right? That's what they.
Yeah.
Like I said, we'll attach this guide, or this document that I put together. But essentially, this is like, I like to call it balance, the minimum prescription, right? So it's understanding that there's a balance between all of these different things. So the first thing that I have in it is like, we define health, okay? And it's the opposite of dis-ease, right? The absence of dis-ease, okay? Then the next concept that I like to introduce is learning to love things that love you back, right? So learn to love things that love you back. My observation with working with, like thousands of people to do this is that a good percentage of people love things that don't love them back. All right. Like they love doing things that end up taking away from their health. Okay. That leave them in a state of dis-ease. So I'm like, why would you love that thing if it takes from you, right? Why not love things that give back to you, that are additive instead of subtractive? Okay. Then I talk about degrees of freedom. So these are like 2 sort of meta concepts that you sort of want to understand. And then we have the pillars, right? So the first pillar is breath, right? So breathing, understanding why it's so important. Like I said, if you hold your breath for more than 2 minutes, most people die. Hydration, okay? So understanding what is hydration. It's not just drinking water, it's understanding electrolyte balance, okay? And all the different electrolytes and the different roles and the different processes that they contribute to in the body. Like the difference between sodium and potassium is very important. Sodium is an extracellular hydrator. Potassium is an intracellular hydrator. So potassium pulls fluid into cells, and sodium can pull it out into the space around the cells, right? So just understanding these different things can make a huge difference. Then we talk about nutrition, right? So nourishing the body, like not just energy, but what does it mean to nourish the body? Then on the flip side of nutrition, we need fasting. So fasting is a pillar for health. Well, so you need times of abundance where you're ingesting all these things, and you need times of deprivation when you're not. Give your body a break so that it can improve the efficiency of certain processes and correct a bunch of errors. Okay, then we have movement, right? How important movement is for health. And then light and dark, right? So understanding light exposure and then the absence of light and why that's so important as well. So one isn't better than the other, right? It's understanding that they're both necessary. Then we talk about temperature, right? And so exposing the body and the human body to a variety of different temperatures, right? So you have heat on one extreme and coldness on the other extreme, and what exposing the body to those extremes can do, what processes that they can encourage, and the different, essentially processes that they sort of encourage or activate or facilitate to happen. And then the last one is loading it, right? So loading your body or challenging your body across various dimensions. So with movement, that can, be like adding weight to things, etc. But like the concept of loading, periodically increasing the amount that you can do or handle over time, and what that does to create, like there's a catch-all, like a term that was coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb called anti-fragile, but to become anti-fragile, right? So the more you progressively load over time, the more anti-fragile your body can become. But yeah, they're to me, they're sort of like the key things, right? That if we sort of break that down, there's like 8 key things that if you sort of can wrap your head around that, you can really set up a fantastic foundation for health. And then on top of that, you have like human connection and all these other sort of things. But like, these are just like 8 base things that like I think every single person can do and manage.
The sun, the light exposure, I find really interesting. Actually, the sun exposure is such an important thing. Like if we think about vitamin D, so I keep going back to micronutrients, bro. We're still on this like micronutrient. I'm in this micronutrient headspace for some reason. But like if we think about sunlight, right? Like yeah,
but it all leads there, right? You can't talk about anything without ending up down there, right? Like that's all paths lead to that. It's incredibly complex down there. So like, it's not a bad thing. It's just all roads lead to them at some stage.
Our body synthesizes one micronutrient. I mean, not one, but basically what I'm trying to say is that the sun, our body has the ability to, in some way, I'm not really sure what the pathway would be, but absorb the sun or the rays of the sun, or I don't know what the right language would be. And then our body uses that and converts it to vitamin D. Like that is
photons. That's a unit of sunlight.
Yeah. So it's crazy that our body is equipped to do that. It's amazing, right? So sunlight exposure is so important. And I know there's a lot of people probably thinking, or there's been a lot of talk about, oh, well, the sun's really dangerous. And it can be, right? If you abuse anything, it can be dangerous. So we have to learn how to utilize the sun in a healthier way. One way to do that is have some sun exposure really early, right? And really late. So when the sun is coming up or when it's going down, when the sun isn't at its full capacity. And we also want to expose the majority of our body. If we could go completely naked, that'd probably be ideal, but that's not, it's not an option for most. So expose you like your stomach, your back, your legs, your arms, like try to expose most of your body to the sun is super, super beneficial. Like we've talked about this before, but circadian rhythm is one thing, vitamin D, it gives you energy. Like it's incredible what sun exposure can do for the human body. And it's such a simple and free thing that everyone can do, but we're just not, most of us just aren't optimizing the sun. Like a lot of us don't even see the sun some days, right? Like there's a lot of people that are working all day and they don't even get a minute of sun exposure, like not even one. If you don't get sun exposure, how are you getting your vitamin D? Are you supplementing? Or because some food is fortified with vitamin D, but it's very difficult to find foods that naturally have vitamin D. I'm not really one doesn't come to mind at the moment, but if you don't have sun exposure and you're not supplementing with vitamin D, then you are currently vitamin D deficient. And vitamin D deficiencies, that can come with a lot of downstream issues. For example, hormone regulation, right? Vitamin D has a lot to do with hormones and hormone regulation. So it's an extremely important vitamin, and it's just like a life hack that everyone can sort of do. Just get out there in the sun. That's all you got to do. It's for free. Just do it.
Big time. But you just mentioned one aspect of it, which is vitamin D, right? But there is so many other things that we're not even aware of yet that light exposure is doing for the body. So you think about certain things don't grow in the light, right? Like mold doesn't grow in direct sunlight. It likes dark, damp places. So different bacteria, different molds, different funguses, all sorts of different, these micro things that are happening, that are everywhere. They can thrive in certain environments, whereas they can't thrive in other environments. So sunlight is not just about the vitamin D. It's also a very cleansing thing. It's an energizing thing. And when you're getting natural light like sunlight, you're getting a broad spectrum of frequencies, right? Which have different effects. When you're taking vitamin D as a supplement, you're getting one dimension of the vitamin D, as opposed to the whole spectrum that actually exists, right? And so this is another big thing with, sort of artificial or synthesized vitamins and minerals like that. Is it's a lower dimension version of the thing. When we're getting it through quote unquote natural mechanisms, we're getting the full spectrum, right? Which is very, very important. But yeah, if you're not getting adequate light exposure, it will lead to long-term problems for sure. Like we see this all over. You can just look at some of the Nordic countries where they have to consume high levels of cod liver oil and different things like that to make sure they do get those vitamin D levels because of the weather, because of the lack of sunlight over, for extended periods at different times of the year. So I brought up this
depression,
the document that we'll attach in the show notes.
Depression is linked to low vitamin D levels.
And just one thing on the health. Yeah, you have SAD, seasonally affected disorder, in areas that have low levels of daylight or sunlight during certain periods. So yeah, all of these things are just immense, right? And it's so much to sort of wrap your head around. But again, if you can sort of just take this base in, I think it provides a very nice foundation for people to be able to build from, right? So just this little health thing, and we can wrap this whole thing up. But so I like to start things with questions. What exactly is health? And it says, Webster defines health as the following: the condition of being sound in body, mind, and spirit, especially freedom from physical dis-ease or pain. Okay, so that's somewhat helpful. We know that being healthy sounds great and not being healthy sounds horrible. So we can agree that being healthy is a good thing. However, the definition above doesn't provide any help in regards to how to actually be healthy. So here is where we will introduce the atoms of health, or pillars for health, or whatever building block you want to use. We use the term atom of health because atoms are the building blocks of everything we know about in the universe. And just like how atoms come together in certain quantities and balances to form larger structures, so too do the atoms of health. There is no one most important atom. They all play an essential role in health. So each atom of health has a boundary, which consists of two extremes or limits. The two extremes are a minimum limit and a maximum limit. These two limits define the boundary. Think of a ball and think of the bottom of the ball as the minimum and the top of the ball as the maximum, and the whole ball as the boundary. As with anything that has two limits, there will be a balance point somewhere around the middle. Please note that limits are not inherently good or bad. They are necessary. In fact, in order to maintain a balance of each atom of health, we will have to oscillate between the limits. This oscillation will be unique to you and depend on many factors that we'll discuss further in each section. Right? So what I mean by that is, some people will require more sun exposure than others. For example, populations of people that have higher melanin in their skin, so darker pigmented skin, will require more sunlight to synthesize the same amount of vitamin D as compared to somebody who has lower melanin or lighter skin. They won't require as much sun exposure to synthesize the same amount of vitamin D. Okay, so this is unique to each person. each person needs to figure out their balance point between the two limits and how far they need to oscillate to one extreme and then come back to another. And it's a fluid process, right? This is a continuous process that's happening all the time. We're constantly having to shift. There is no fixed point where you just stay, right? Like it's going to be continuously moving and adapting. And that ability to move is really important. You were talking about like blood pressure before. And one way to think about blood pressure is a hardening of the arteries. So the arteries don't have the ability to absorb the volatility or the changes in blood flow or blood volume when it's hard, right? But if it's elastic, it has the ability to absorb. Therefore, your blood pressure isn't as high because as the flow increases, the arteries or the vascular system can adapt, right? It can absorb that pressure, and so the blood pressure stays more consistent. And it's the same kind of thing with this. You want to be able to oscillate between those two extremes. You don't want to become fixed in this one point, so to speak. So yeah, we've got that. I just quickly go through them again. Breath. Without oxygen, human can't survive for more than a few minutes. Hydrate. The human body is 75% water. Sleep. The body's daily maintenance opportunity. We consolidate memories, repair tissue, and abstractly explore possibilities when sleeps. Like memories get formed. This is when the body repairs itself and goes and fixes up all the little damages and microtraumas. Feed and fast / nourish. Food is fuel. All fuels are not created equal. Sometimes reducing fuel is necessary to resensitize the system and clean out the system. So that's a little bit on the fasting. Move. If you don't use it, you lose it. Every external movement creates an internal movement and vice versa. Seek light and dark. Light is for waking up and energizing. Dark is for shutting down and regenerating. Hot and cold. Powerful state change tools that can have local and global effects on your body and hormonal systems. Load it. Okay, so adding resistance / load progressively over time increases our anti-fragility. And bacteria, the good and the bad, plus finding your balance. So understanding that your body is cohabitated by bacteria, like a ridiculous amount of them. By number, there are more bacteria than there are human cells. And so understanding that it's you're not just human, but you are also cohabitated by a lot of bacteria, and understanding the balance between those. Some that they want to fuck with you, and other ones that are trying to help you out. And how can you shift that balance, right? And finding your balance. If you're out of balance, understand what you can do to get back in balance. But yeah, we'll attach that in the show notes. It's a big thing. Very empowering. We're also going to have that and access to many articles and blogs on Good Meals as well. So that's what we want to build out. We want to build out the ultimate tool for people to take control of their health. And I think a good place to start is nutrition.
Damn right it is, man. All right. Also, links in the description, by the way, for our goodmeals.health. Yeah. So go ahead and sign up today. Yeah.
And any feedback would be greatly appreciated.
That's true.
So if you do check it out.
Yeah, feedback's always good. Yeah. The delay today was heavy, bro.
That delay is killer, guy.
It's difficult, eh? And I can hardly see you too. It's like really pixelated. So usually I'm terrible at jumping in because sometimes I think like, oh, Reuben is finished talking now, I'm going to jump in, and I'm bad at that in general. But then with this delay, it's like it's killer, bro. I don't know how this is gonna fucking turn out, guy. It's gonna require some editing, this one, guy, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do the outro if you're keen now.
All right. You could probably see my thumbs up before you can hear me speaking.
Yeah. So yeah, Good Meals is our attempt at making a positive impact in the world, giving people the tools and the ability to take control of their nutrition, energy balance, and health status. The instantiation with the meal plans and the AI recipe generator with the macro calculating abilities, all of those things is the first step of many steps towards providing a suite of tools that will allow every person to take control of their health status and the quality of their life if they so choose. So yeah, check it out. goodmeals.health. If you have feedback or suggestions, feel free to let us know. If there's certain features that you would like on the web app, also let us know, because we are continuously developing and adding new functionality. This, again, is just the starting point. This is what Good Meals is today, is not what it will be in the future. We have a dream and a vision to build out, like I said, the suite of tools that allow any person to take control of their health status. So thank you very much for your time and attention. We greatly appreciate it. Polska, have a lovely rest of your day. If there's anything you want to finish with, let me know.
Oh, we're good, Guy. And thank you, bro. Love you, dude. Peace.
All right. Love you too, Guy. Peace out. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Later.